poppin', y'all? It is your boy Gardi3, and welcome to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. And of course, joining me just like every morning show, he is the pillar of the morning show. He is Mo. Better. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great on a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Getting ready to chop it up and talk a little bit about everything.
Hey, you know what? Why don't we start close to home for you? You got the return of LeBron James last night as the Lakers handle the Utah Jazz. LeBron finishes with 11 and 12. Hey, it's got to be nice to have that playmaking boost back in your lineup.
Absolutely. His ability to generate offense for others gives Luka and Austin Reeves more opportunities to catch and shoot or finish plays. So, look, I know you can see what I put underneath me where it says LeBron and Draymond with talent. I'm saying that obviously as a joke, tongue in cheek, but I'm also saying in his current role, I think that what if LeBron James were to average 19 or 20 points a game, but his assists tick up to 10 or 11 a game? Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think he needs to be one of the top two scoring options, at least not during the regular season. I think this is about preserving him for the postseason.
No, absolutely. And at this point in his career, when you have Luka on your team and Austin Reeves is taking such a big leap as a creator, it almost feels like that if he locks in more on the playmaking and defensive side of the ball and lets those two kind of handle the scoring load, that would work great for you guys.
Yeah, look, why can't LeBron be like, you know what? I'll be the facilitator. I'll be our second leading rebounder, and I'll be a more intentional defender because he can preserve energy that he would normally use on offense on defense. I think that's a winning formula. I'm not saying LeBron won't have a game where he drops 30 here and there, but if Austin Reeves and Luka are going to continue to do what they're doing, I just think that takes a lot of workload off of him. And again, even though he has beat back Father Time like nobody has ever done before, why put why put more workload on him when you don't have to?
Oh, fair enough. Say you got your guy back. Sounds like Giannis is going to be out for 2 weeks. Hey, my guy's going on the injury list. Say it was a groin injury, but thankfully it sounds like it's only going to be a couple week thing. It's a low strain there, so thankfully it's like the best case scenario. But honestly, keep him out an extra week just to be safe. I say it. It's really unfortunate. He's having such a great year again. He's shooting really, really well from three to start the year, which has caught me off guard. So overall, it's just unfortunate we're not going to see him for a couple weeks. But if you're the Bucks, you can't afford to rush him back and risk re-injury. So I just hope they're extra careful with this one.
You don't rush your superstar back. You wait till he's 100%, till your medical staff clears him, and then you bring him back. And look, when he comes back, nothing will change. He'll still be one of the three best players in basketball. He'll still be right there for MVP with Joker and SGA because those three are the front runners. I love Wemby, but people are so quick to rush him to. He's not going to be the MVP this year. He's not ready. He's terrific. He's definitely going to be all NBA. He has a legitimate shot, depending on how many games he plays, to be DPOY. That doesn't shock me. But he's the leap that they're talking about him making to be MVP. When you look at the level that the three guys I'm talking about are playing at, Wemby's not there yet. He's not making that leap just yet. And I'm just saying that to people that are listening, give him time. He's still, what is he now, 21? Give him time. He'll get there. He might win a few MVPs, but you can't rush that process because he is still developing. So let's just enjoy what he does right now. I think him being out in a lot of ways helps the Spurs because they're so dependent on him, and sometimes you forget that they have more talent on that roster. They have more bucket getters on that roster. So I want to see more from Vassell. I want to see more from Keldon Johnson. When Dylan Harper comes back, I know what he can do. And then, of course, you just get De'Aaron Fox back. So I think the Spurs can stay afloat while Wemby's out.
Say, you know how they have this, the 65 game limit for making all NBA and everything. Wemby just keeps suffering these like really unfortunate injuries. Do you know how like brutal it would almost be for the rest of the league if Wemby was all of a sudden never like made an all NBA and got the supermax because of injuries, and all of a sudden he's only getting paid 25% of the cap.
Right.
Ooh, give that financial flexibility to work around Wemby. It's so weird in the sense that you're watching him be so talented, and yet this might be another year where he might not be able to make DPOI or All NBA, because who knows if he hits that 65 games, which he still has a chance, but it almost brings into question, say, do you maybe the next CBA, do you think they maybe lower the amount of games it requires to reach these awards? Or
I'll say this. Initially, it was a good idea. But if I see, for instance, a guy like Wemby play 50 games, and in those 50 games, he gives me 27, 12, and 5 blocks, that's a huge sample size. This isn't a fluke. He's that good. That player should be an all NBA player. That player should be able to win DPOY. That player should be able to get all kind of honors. I think what Silver and company was trying to do was set a mark and deter load management. But I think that can backfire. Wemby's not being load managed, but he might be, and I hope I'm wrong, Brett. I hope I'm wrong. He might be one of those guys that, he's 7'4", 7'5". Those guys tend to have all kind of nagging injuries, and maybe he never plays 60-plus games. And that would be a shame, because everything we see from him jumps off the court and says all NBA, MVP, DPOY. Like he's all those things, but if the bar has got to be 65, there are a lot of great players. What if you play 60 games? That's not a sample size enough to show that you're worthy of the accolades. Look, there's guys that play 78, 75 games and they make the All-Star team, but they're not nearly as impressive as a guy like Wemby is. So I think they should really revisit that and recalibrate that.
It almost feels like that there should also maybe, if you're going to pull this like games like limit, maybe also add like a minutes limit that's maybe a little lower, if you're not going to get rid of the games requirement. Because, yeah, like you said, it just, I get what they're trying to do, but at the same time, I think that it does need some tweaking. And it's funny, because at the end of the day, the voters didn't really ever vote for guys that, only played like 40 or 50 games, or 50, half the time not even like 55.
Right.
Those guys weren't even making all NBA and DPOYs to begin with for the most part. So it almost feels like it was an overreaction a bit. Like, I get the idea and what they're trying to do, but to tie it directly to awards was just kind of weird, because it's like, all right, well, guess what? The voters never really voted those guys in for all NBA anyway, so I'm not really sure what the end game is here.
Yeah, I actually think the fans and the voters, the writers who I disagree with it sometimes, I think they get it right more times than not. I just think you're right. It's an overreach. Silver he's had a lot of really good ideas. This is an overreach, because there are going to be a lot of great players that play 60 games or 59 games, and they're not going to make the All-Star team versus a guy who plays 70 games and has a good season, but averages 20 points a game and 8 rebounds and 5 assists on a sub 500 team. They're going to make the All-Star team over somebody like a Wemby, or maybe even over somebody like a Kawhi Leonard. Like, I think you have to make this a case-by-case basis, because you can look at an older player like Kawhi Leonard, and with his history, he ain't playing 65 games. All right? He's not playing 65 games. If James Harden, who's still playing at a high level, plays 60 games where he's giving you over 20 points and 11 assists, That's enough of a sample size to me for him to be worthy of consideration for an all NBA team. I don't like the bar that Silver set because I think he meant well, but I think they might want to look at that and come up with a better way to handle load management.
And also, it leads to a lot of awkward situations for these all NBA teams, right? When it's all right, guys. Let's say LeBron, Wemby, and Giannis haven't played enough games, so they're not all NBA. So now you create really awkward situations for these teams when it's like, all right, well, let's say example. Okay, look, we're kind of running low on options of guys who played 65 games. Mikal Bridges, you're all NBA. Congratulations, and you're like, well. Good luck with that next contract negotiation, Knicks, because now we got Supermax money involved for a non-Supermax talent. So
that's a great point. And Silver and company need to look at that. Like you're setting yourself up for failure. And this is not a knock against a player like Bridges, who's a very good player, and is capable of having an all-star caliber season. But for Mikal Bridges to have an all NBA season, he would not only have to play like the 65 games, he would have to have like the numbers he has now, they're fine, but he's not going to make an all NBA team. He would have to have an out of body experience and average like 24, 25 points a game to go with the defense. I just think that's a tough road to hold when you do have guys like Luka or LeBron out there who are clearly better basketball players. And you're penalizing them because Mikal Bridges plays 65 games to their 60 games. When you clearly know, and anybody with 2020 vision knows that they're better, that they're better basketball players. Like I said, they meant well, but speaking of meaning well, they mean well with a lot of things. They've meant well, Brett, the last 5 years on fixing the All-Star game. I think they keep finding new ways to make it worse.
Yeah, I don't understand why teams rest players when they go against conference foes. It can cost you a tiebreaker when it comes to seeding play in tournament. It's weird. There's this idea that these early regular season games don't matter, and I feel like that kind of plays a part in it because teams will be like, well, it's a game in November. It doesn't really matter. We can make up the games later. Which has always been weird logic to me because, let's face it, the games all of a sudden look like they really matter when the season's over and you were one game away from, the third seed. Instead, you're the fifth seed and you get a completely different matchup. So I don't get it either. Like I said, I get wanting to rest your key players for, to stay healthy throughout the season, but I feel like these conference and really important matchups, even early, you got to play them.
Facts. Look, MacDad88 is spot on. It only makes sense to me when you have an older team and your core guys are 34, 35, so they're going to need a night off here and there. But a lot of these teams are resting guys that are 25 and under. Like, what are you doing? And if you're a younger team, you need to stack wins. You need to stack wins like right now. What you don't do is sacrifice victories when later down the road you're going to be like, man, we could have avoided the play in it if we're not taking this route. So I'm like, if you're healthy, barring an injury, and you're young, we're going to play. You're going to play unless you're injured, you're going to play.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. By the way, speaking of teams, Mo, is it a panic time for the Los Angeles Clippers? They're on a really brutal run right now, and they don't even own their first round pick this year.
I know. I want to say it's panic time, but there really is no need to panic. You could be a lottery team, you still ain't getting a lottery pick. So I feel like this. I want to be consistent. Steve Ballmer obviously is a brilliant businessman. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing when it comes to basketball. He's a fan, but he's a fan who doesn't actually know the game. And Lawrence Frank, who's done a lot of good things, He's done a horrible thing with his roster construction. What were you expecting to happen when you comprise your core of guys that are 35 and older? What the hell do you think is going to happen? You're going to get the brakes beat off you. That's what's going to happen. And the guys that you comprise that of is they're not all great players. Some of them are just good role players, but they're 35 and 36-year-old role players. I don't understand that. I don't understand the mindset. The best thing the Clippers could do is have a fire sale. The best thing they could do is do the hard thing, which a lot of franchises refuse to do, and start that rebuild. Because the reality is this: Clippers aren't winning the championship this year. They're not winning one next year. They're not winning one 3 years from now. They're probably not winning one 10 years from now. What has happened is, the reality is, in the Kawhi Leonard era, and I'm not putting this on Kawhi, but he is the best player, so he would be the face of the franchise. That run or that potential of them winning a title, that's come and gone. We're on the other side of that. That door is closed. What are you putting an older team together for, to just be relevant? Tell me the end game, because I know the end game isn't to win a championship, not with this roster. So to me, I'm open for business. I'm doing like a lot of. There have been years before people would have said it's the unthinkable. Would I trade Kawhi Leonard? Yeah, I would. We're not going to win a title with Kawhi Leonard. And really, if Kawhi Leonard was thinking about the big picture, or if legacy mattered to him, he'd be on board with being traded. At this stage of his career, Kawhi Leonard, I'm going to give you an example just for fun. Your Bucks, if Kawhi Leonard was traded to your Bucks, he would be the second or third option. But I think at this stage of his career, that's what he should be, the second or third option. And as a second or third option, if he's your second or third option, you're a title contender. That's the difference. But right now, with him being the guy or Harden being the guy, neither one of them can be your best player and win a title. I'm moving Harden. I'm moving Kawhi. I'm moving maybe the most valuable player on that team, because he's not 30. I think Zubac is 27. It might be Z. There's a lot of teams looking for big guys that can rim run, rebound at a high level. Z's actually worked on his post game. He's actually a pretty good post player. I'm trading everybody and starting the rebuild and getting some young assets, some picks, and do the hard thing. Steve Ballmer is a lot like Daryl Morey. Like he refuses to do the hard thing, and he keeps trying to make these Band-Aid moves that aren't going to yield a title. It's not going to yield a title. Like, although the Sixers are in a much better situation because they have young talent. They've got Maxey, Edgecombe, McCain will be back. They've got a young core. They're fine. The Clippers have nothing like that. They have to get some young legs on that roster. They have to start making moves for the future.
See, I agree. They do need to make moves for the future, but we can't let them do it through the regular season this year. Even if they go a hot stretch and be a play-in team, that works for me this year, because I'm sure you know who owns their first round pick this year.
Yeah.
And we can't let it happen. Yeah. We cannot let them get another top 3 pick on the Clippers tank job.
Brett, I'm telling you right now, the chat, everybody in the chat listening right now, the rich are going to get richer. Your defending champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder, are going to have a lottery pick. Matter of fact, they've got a shot to have 2 lottery picks. Think about that for a minute. It's not like they're not talented as hell already. They can go 9 deep now, but you're going to give them a lottery pick. Now, look, the way of the NBA is this: when you have the success that they had, and you look at the role players that they have that have impacted that success, they're going to lose some of those guys because of money. So you will lose Wiggins. You probably will lose guys like Cason Wallace. But the reason why Sam Presti is the best GM in basketball, bar none, is because of what he's done. He set himself up for, okay, we might lose Wiggins or Cason Wallace, but we're getting a lottery pick who may be better than both of them combined. That's crazy to me. The Oklahoma City Thunder, I don't know if they're going to win 3 or 4 titles over the next 5 years, but I will say this: as a GM, Sam Presti has set them up to win 3 titles in 5 years.
You know what's scary, Mo? Technically they have a chance for 3 lottery picks,
Oh,
but so they have the Clippers pick. They have the Utah pick, but it's top 1 through 8 protected, so they could very well get it if Utah's just like not terrible but like meddling and they fall out of the top 8, that goes to OKC. And they have the Philly pick. That's top 1 through 4 protected. So let's say Embiid and Paul George get hurt again, and Maxey and Edgecombe struggle, and they fall too. Yeah, they very well could add 3 really good picks this year.
That's crazy to me. What I will say about the Philly situation is Embiid and Paul George will get hurt again. But if as long as Maxey, Edgecombe, they'll get McCain back. What's my guy that played for the Knicks? I'm losing Quentin Grimes is playing at a high level. I think the Sixers are going to play well enough to where OKC won't get a lottery pick out of that. What I will say is this. Let me propose this to you, Brett. If you're Sam Presti and you look at your roster top to bottom and you want to lock down that you're going to be a dynasty, do you need those picks? I'm saying this because your core, I'm talking about your best players, your main guys, they're 25 and under outside of I think SGA is the old man, he's 26, but everybody else is like 22, 23. Like the core is that young. Granted, there's a couple of veterans around the edges like Caruso's a little bit older, but my point is with those lottery picks, if I'm Sam Presti, do I need the picks or do I trade the picks and pursue an established player to solidify like the KD move that the Warriors made years back just solidified, well, they're going to win the title for the next couple of years. OKC's coming off of winning the title, but is there a move out there because of the amount of number 1 picks Presti has that he can pursue another established talent?
I think you can go multiple ways with that. I do think you end up consolidating those picks because when do you really ever run 12 deep and want to try to develop like 3 different rookies? I don't think that works in this situation.
Agreed.
So I think that let's just say the Clippers get, let's say like a top 6 pick, maybe the Jazz get like pick 10 if you get that lucky, or 11. Who says they don't maybe try to be like, hey, so let's trade up to pick 3 and try to get someone like Cam Boozer or AJ Nybasta, or maybe season goes off the rails and Giannis becomes available. Okay, maybe consolidate some of those picks in a potential Giannis trade.
They have the assets. They got the assets.
Yeah, that's the scary part. So I think that we're looking at a situation where they have to consolidate them. And when you're looking at a draft that has a top 3 this good, I think you can go either way. You go, hey, you can have, hey, here's potentially 2 lottery picks and a later pick. We'll take your number, 3 pick. Or, hey, we see you have a superstar that's unhappy. Take 3 lottery picks. So they're in just such a great situation that I think they'll consolidate. I just don't know which direction they'll go with it.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. Right now the league is their oyster because you're right, they can consolidate and get into the top 3 and get one of those guys, or they could take those picks, consolidate them, and go pursue an established young star. I'm talking about somebody that's probably still, in their mid-20s or so, and go after them and go, I'm just gonna lock it down and make us like I've just made us that much more dominant. The Giannis thing is insane if that were to happen. I don't think it will, because I don't think he has any intentions of actually leaving. But could you pursue? Because you can't just go out and get a name. You would have to go out and get a name that fits with what Oklahoma City does. And that might be harder than people think, because when people think of the Thunder, they think of their offense. And I always point out that what makes them unique is their defense. Their defense fuels their offense, not the other way around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it'll be interesting. it really feels like the way they go will depend on how their season ends, right? Like if they win another title, they might just add another young piece and keep it moving. But if they get maybe upset in like the second round, then maybe they decide, all right, well, it's time to pull the trigger on a splash move to make it work. So, and the funny part is they could trade like all their first in this year's draft if they really want to, or one or two of them, and they still have about like 10 first in the next like 3 or 4 drafts. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Do you think when you look at the Western Conference right now, and I know it's early, but you are starting to see some teams separate from the others. Like, it's not a shock that the cream of the crop of the West right this minute is Oklahoma City and Denver. That I don't think that shocks anybody. The Lakers are respectable; they're 11-4, but it's such a deceptive 11-4. I'll judge them better when we get 25 games in, especially with LeBron being back. But do you think there's another team in the West outside of Denver and OKC that's a legitimate title threat?
The obvious answer to that is, we got the Houston Rockets are lurking. I think that they could very well make a run, health permitting, but Steven Adams has been so huge for that team, especially on the offensive glass. So I think that I think Houston's in the mix. But once you get past them, it just gets real dicey, right? Like that to me, the next tier of teams you're looking at, like the Lakers, who everybody stays healthy, they get the right matchups, they can make it, a deep run. Minnesota Timberwolves, we've seen them make multiple deep runs the last 2 years, all the way to the Western Conference Finals if they get the right matchup. It's one of those things where it feels like there's like 3 true teams where I look at them and go, yeah, I could very well see them making the finals. And then after that, to me, the next top 2 teams the next year, it's like, all right, Lakers, Timberwolves, you could probably do it with the right matchup. So,
no, I agree with that sentiment. My problem with the Timberwolves is it's impressive that they've made the 3 runs that they have, because you look at every team for their strengths and their weaknesses. Minnesota is always going to be solid defensively, because they have one of the best, if not still the best, anchor in the NBA on their back line. But I don't think they're that great offensively. And it's amazing because they've gone on deep runs, but they don't have multiple shot creators on that team. And there's nobody on that roster that you would look at and go, well, that's a pure shooter. Don't ever leave him open. Like, they don't have that. Like, Naz Reid is a streaky shooter who's capable of getting hot. DiVincenzo is a streaky shooter who's capable of being hot. But I've also seen them both have multiple games where they go 2 for 11 or 0 for 9. Like, they have no pure shooters. Ant is the only true shot creator on the roster because, as you pointed out before the season started, they didn't address Mike Conley's situation. So Mike Conley is still getting minutes, but this version of Mike Conley right now, he can't get around people to be able to be a shot creator. So I don't know what their pick situation looks like, but if Minnesota wants to be a legitimate title contender, they have to go out and get another shot creator. They have to go, and I don't mean a role player. I mean somebody that is borderline a star or a star. It won't just balance out the team. It will take so much pressure off of Anthony Edwards because everything they do or can do offensively is predicated on what he does.
No, fair enough. They do have their first this year, which I'm assuming will be back in like, say, late teens, early 20s. So it'll be interesting. But no, I agree. They need to address that shot making need like pretty badly. Either that or they need. Look, they paid not only this year's first, but a distant future first for Rob Dillingham. They might just need him to step up. The development for the Timberwolves just might have to come from the inside.
Dillingham was another. So you come into the season with a list of guys that you're looking to see if they make a leap in their development. for you and I, we immediately said Jalen Johnson was going to make a leap into being a star. We could see that a mile away. Jalen Duren was another guy, and he's done it to this point. Another guy was Trey Murphy. He got off to a slow start. Now, lately, he's been putting up numbers, but the Pelicans are, when I say a team is bad, they're bad. Like, I think the Wizards have won one game, and the Pelicans, I think, have 2 wins. But I would argue that the Wizards are the better basketball team. Like the Pelicans look like they literally don't care. There's no culture there. They've already fired their coach. I think what they have is they have a bunch of players that don't fit each other, and there's no true leader in the locker room or on the floor. There's just a bunch of names, and I think they've got to make some decisions. Wait, it's another season, Brett, where they get excited about, look what Zion's done to his body. He's quicker and young, more athletic, and so because he's lighter, he's going to be more durable. He's not going to miss any time. And where are we at right now? He is in street clothes again. This feels like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football. They just keep falling for it over and over. You have to trade him. You have to realize it's not going to happen. And the crazy part is he still has value because he's only 25 years old. But you got to trade him. You have to realize that he has become an anchor around your franchise's neck. You got to move him.
Say the healthy, in shape Zion, like not going to miss any games. It's funny because that's starting to become like, hey, what's good, Sajin? Hey, that's starting to be like when it was like for 5 off seasons in a row when it was, hey, look, Ben Simmons is knocking down threes in open gym. He's adding a 3-ball to his game, and then the regular season starts. Feels like that's where I'm kind of at with the whole, like, oh, Zion's going to be healthy this year. Like, yeah, and I'm sure Mitchell Robinson will start hitting those corner threes eventually, but it's one of those things that if it's going to happen with Zion, I completely agree with you. It's not going to happen in New Orleans. You just got to trade him and recoup value while the value is still there.
Do it. Recoup value. If you're a bad team and a small market team, don't just move on from Zion. You can look, DeJounte Murray. Come on, man. Coming off the injury that he's coming off of, even if he wasn't injured, you got to move off of that. That you got to move. Jordan Poole, you got to move off of that. You know it. You already know what that is. You got to move off of that. Move off of that and do the hard thing and start a rebuild. You just do it. Get yourself some assets. Get yourself into the lottery and start a rebuild. The new coach coming in, give him an opportunity to coach up his own guys, not inherit that toxic culture that they have down there right now. It's time to turn the page and move on.
Do you think if they decide to do like a relocation and expansion draft that the Pelicans end up getting moved? Because they just feel like a team that if they start talking about relocating and expanding the conferences, that I could see the Pelicans getting moved to like Seattle or, they're having an obsession right now with moving sports teams to Vegas or something like that.
Seattle's a great sports city. They need another basketball. We need to get them Sonics back. So I don't know if you move the Pelicans, but I do know that how long has Zion been in the league? 6 years now? I want to say 6 years.
Yeah, like 2019 draft, I believe.
Yeah. We've gotten we're beyond. We're more than a half a decade into this. It is what it is. He is going to be one of those guys that when you talk about him, it's going to be led with the 2 words "what if." We got to move on. You got to move on off of that. It's hanging on to bad stock. You just got to keep it moving. I feel like they've given him every opportunity. And look, I'm not blaming him. If you're brittle, you're brittle. That just might be your lot in life. You're one of those brittle dudes. But we know you're brittle. I'm trying to figure out how the Pelicans management, the medical staff doesn't just have a conversation to go, look, we can get this guy healthy, but it's only going to be a matter of time before he's hurt again.
Yeah, the Pelicans in general, they need to trade their entire front office too, and kind of start. They just got to start over with somebody with a vision. Clearly they thought they had a vision to win now this year. You traded your first for Derek Queen. You flipped, say, DeJounte Murray for Jordan Poole. You made all these moves to try to clearly win now this year, and it feels like that. They're going to end up needing to find somebody that has a vision and a plan to execute going forward. Because I get it, Joe Dumars has only been on there for this offseason, but honestly, all it took was the one offseason to make me go, nah. I don't think Joe Dumars is that guy.
Look,
Judging by the moves he's made this year, I'm not sold on him at all.
look, Joe had a streak where all he did was make the right moves. And then along came the Darko. Joe did everything right. Go back and look at those Pistons teams that went to 6 conference finals, went to 2 NBA finals, obviously won a title. He did everything right, except the downfall started with that draft. And then he made an insane trade because he panicked and he got rid of Ben Wallace. And then he made another insane trade and panic and traded Billups for Iverson. Like it was just bad move after bad move. And look, maybe Joe's just out of touch because it's only been the one off season, but it looks like he's picking up where he left off with Detroit. He's not the guy. He's not. You talked a lot about vision. Joe doesn't have the right vision. He's not the right guy to lead your franchise out of the darkness.
Yeah, hey, say thanks to him, the Hawks have a really good chance to snag a couple extra high picks to pair with Jalen Johnson, and hey, gives them more flexibility on whatever they decide to do with Trae Young. The thing with Trae is obviously that contract's coming to an end, so they have to make a choice. Max contract, or is he the next guy on the move, the next star player on the move?
I think Trae Young is an enigma, right? Nobody's going to deny that he's a talent. Nobody's going to deny his production. And as the team's best player, he did take them to a conference finals. Like I'm not going to tell you that he doesn't have value, but I think maybe this is just one of those things where his time in Atlanta has kind of like worn thin, and they can move on from him. Not saying he's done, because I think he has value if he goes to the right spot somewhere else. Look, your Bucks could use a Trae Young. You could. You think Giannis's life wouldn't be made easier by that guy, and vice versa? Giannis wouldn't make his life much easier. Absolutely. So I think if I'm Atlanta, I'm going through the process of this season. I'm watching Jalen Johnson and those other young players. By the way, another guy who stepped his game up in the development for the Hawks is their big man, Okongwu. Like, remember when he came into the league, he couldn't make free throws. Now this guy's shooting threes and making them. Like it's a crazy thing. I think that because these guys are development and taking these big leaps in their development, and then you've got a guy like who's the guy that's the point of attack defender? He was just in DPOY. Yes. So you've got a guy like that who has great value and impact on games, and he doesn't have to score a single point sometimes, but you can look at what he does in games. So I think Trae Young still has great value. I just think that if it would benefit the Hawks to move him and get back an asset that fits what they're doing right now.
Say it. Yeah, and hey, maybe a Trae Young move would probably net you a couple more first, and it could very well work out for the future if you continue to get a healthy Jalen Johnson and you add in a talent like a Darren, Peterson or a Boozer.
Yes.
Alongside of him, and plus an extra first or two from a Trae Young move. I think it could be beneficial for both parties at this point, because it just feels like Trae Young. I don't think the Hawks are too eager to give him the max contract he's looking for, because one, it's apparently been reported that that kind of a little bit of a holdup And I don't think Trae Young is going to take anything less than a max. So,
Oh, that's you can book that. But here's the rub. A good fit, a good landing spot for Trae Young. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. You pair Trae Young with Ant. That's exactly what Ant needs. Another guy that can not only drop 20, but he can make life easier. Like the lobs that Rudy and Randall and company will get from the action of Trae Young. That's a great fit.
imagine Trae Young to the Knicks.
Uh,
Hawks ain't making that deal. That's the
should,
funny part. The Hawks say no real quick.
The Hawks say no, but let's keep it a buck. The Knicks say no. Then, like, I have to assume that if you thought Trae Young was going to the Knicks, you're trading him for Brunson. The Knicks aren't trading Brunson for Trae Young.
The hilarious part is it doesn't work for either side. Just from the Hawks side, what do they have that you're really dying to get your hands on?
This is facts.
And on the Knicks side, are you really going to try to put your team on a Jalen Brunson, Trae Young backcourt? That sounds, along with Karl Anthony Towns at center, like you can book yourself for second round exits at that point, because
or maybe first round exit, because who are you stopping? Who are you stopping? The opposing team now has 3 guys they can target.
So yeah, the entire offense at that point for the any team facing the Knicks would just be, hey guys, ISO, clear out of the way, because you can just get a straight line drive, and unless if OG Anunoby's rotating over, Cat ain't stopping you at the rim. So
this is true.
Honestly, it might be funny to watch though, so I'm for it.
See, I'm not as cruel as my partner is, chat. I'm more practical. The Timberwolves work because Rudy's still that dude back there as a backline defender. If Trae Young gets beat off the dribble, guess who's there? Ant's actually a very good defender. McDaniels is a good defender. So and Randall last year played really well defensively for most of the season. So I like what they have if you could add a guy like Trae Young, because the same way other teams hide certain players, I think they're good enough as a team defensively. You can hide Trae Young.
Say, Mo's Raptors are up in the East. Yeah, that won't last.
Hey, Kyle remembers. Now, remember, to be fair, I'll be honest. The season that the Raptors are having this season is the season I thought they would have last year, but everybody stayed hurt. I think they're good enough to make the playoffs. I don't think the Raptors are good enough to go on a deep playoff run, because they're kind of a weird team. They've got 3 guys to do the same thing.
Say Trae Young. Okay, this one's actually interesting. Trae Young for Ja. That would be a choice, because it feels like that you're just okay. You want to move on from Trae Young, but it feels like moving from Trae Young to Ja is just a lateral move, where Trae Young just shoots the out. Obviously he's an outside threat with just high level playmaking,
right?
Where Ja is just an interior threat with high level playmaking, and both provide no defense. So it feels like it's just a lateral move on 2 different axes.
I don't disagree, because would Ja and Jalen Johnson be an exciting, attacking the rim duo? They would be, but would the Hawks be better? No, they're not going to be better, because Ja's not the playmaker or the shooter that Trae Young is. And putting Trae Young on that Grizzlies team, I don't think he elevates them at all. Like he'll get his numbers, but it's one of those moves where I don't think either team benefits.
Yeah, I'll give the Raptors some credit though, Kyle. They're up, but they're just such an awkward fit.
They are. That's my point. And I'm the one that said they could be good, but they're awkward. If you think about it, with Quickly, and then you got BI, and then Scotty Barnes, And what's the boy from Duke? The lefty. I can't
Say
remember his
Barrett.
name. Yes, that Barrett and Bi are very similar. You know what I mean? Just one's left-handed, one's right-handed, but everything they do is in the mid-range. Neither one of them are high-level three-point shooters. Scotty Barnes is one of those kind of guys that could do everything really well, but he's not great at any one thing. And quickly is just a streaky scorer. Like I love what they're doing, but I don't think it's sustainable. Oh, by the way, Damian, you mentioned Trae Young and Ja. Wouldn't they be what your Bulls need? One of them, right? Like, if you want to help Josh Giddey out, if I was Josh Giddey, if I had a choice between the two, I'm taking Trae Young. But I'm just saying that's a landing spot for one of them.
Yeah. I don't know if Trae Young on the Bulls really works insanely well. And the only reason I'd be concerned about that fit is Trae works the best with a lob threat, and I wouldn't really put Vucevic and lob threat in the same sentence or category or anywhere near each other. It just feels like the center rotation in Chicago doesn't really kind of fit what you normally see out of a Trae Young centric team. But hey, you know what? Ja Morant playing with another pick and popper could work. So there you go. Ja to Chicago.
Yeah, look, I think if you bring in a Trae Young wherever you go, you have to set him up for success. You just pointed out he's at his best with shooters around him, but he's really at his best when he's got like an athletic lob threat. So if I were to trade him to Chicago, then that can't be the only trade that you would make. You need to bring in an athletic big. Again, you want to go shopping, you go shopping in Brooklyn. You bring in a Claxton. Claxton's an athletic rim running big.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Say we saw Trae really work. Obviously, in 2021, you have guys like Capella and John Collins that he can sit there just throwing up lobs to all game. So, no, I agree with that. I think if you're looking to bring in maybe like a Trae Young, maybe take a chance and see if you can make it work with him there. The first thing you do is you find a way to shop out Vooch and just bring in some more athleticism at the center position to really just make it work with him.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, I feel like this is going to be one of those odd years where bigger names will be on the block, not just Ja, not just Trae Young. I think the Pelicans, they might not move Zion. If I'll say this, if they don't move Zion, then you're probably going to move the other guys around him, which would be the bigger mistake. But look, I'm a huge Trey Murphy fan. Like I say, if you want to go out and get another young talent that's around 24 years old who can score at all three levels, and he's actually an elite defender. I'm not saying bring in Trey Murphy to be your best player, but he can be one of your three best players.
I'm curious to see what happens with Lauri Markkanen.
That's another one. You know what? I was doing this comparison for TikTok. Their skill sets are completely different. They're the same age, but I was asking this question: Who is the better basketball player? Who has more value, Bam Adebayo or Lauri Markkanen?
I'd probably go with it's tough to vote against Bam on that one. Lauri is the skill sets are so different, so it's very dependent as to what you need. But when you can get yourself a guy like Bam who's just a DPOY level talent, that's just so tough to find. So I would lean Bam, but I also could be swayed either way depending on the team we're talking about. I'll take Giannis for P. Will. I bet you will take Giannis for P. Will.
Right. No doubt.
Say, good luck convincing the Bucks that they do that, but hey, I'm sure you will. I hear Patrick Williams' name anywhere near my Giannis conversations, I'm hanging up the phone and blocking the Bulls number.
Yeah, that's going to be a really short phone call. But no, go ahead.
No, yeah, like I said, it'll be interesting when it comes to Giannis if we do have to move him. Just do right by him, but also make sure to just find a spot where we get the appropriate amount of assets for him. Tough.
Right.
Say it's a tough thing to balance, but at
If
the end of the day, if we have to make a choice, just let's just rob a team of all of his assets and move on.
look, if and when it ever comes to that, I'm with you. That's what you got to do. Like if you move Giannis, you're gonna gut some team of like multiple number one picks, maybe even a young talent as well. And I still think there's no shortage of teams out. You want to do right by him. So let's start off. How can you do right by him? You'd have to trade him to a contender. That's the starting point, right? Like at least to a team that can be competitive enough to have a shot to win a title. So you're looking to trade him to one of the better teams. A team that we talked about in the offseason that has tons of young assets still would be the Spurs, right? And it's weird. Maybe in a lot of ways, Giannis could be the big brother that Wemby kind of needs, right? Because Giannis came into the league, people forget, and he was super skinny and frail, and he had to put in the work to kind of like build his body up. And he did that. I think he would be a great mentor to Wemby. And the Spurs have their picks. They also have a couple of young pieces that Milwaukee would look after and pursue. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think if you're talking about doing right by Giannis while also doing right by your franchise, San Antonio and Oklahoma City would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, it's I would love San Antonio for us and Giannis, so that'd be a great spot because they do have interesting picks in their collection, right? Like one of the picks, obviously, for example, I'd be targeting. They have the 2031 Kings pick swap. I would definitely have my eye on that one. They have Pelicans. They have a couple of. I think they have a Pelicans pick somewhere in there. They have an Atlanta pick in the first round. So, and they have salary filler. Obviously they paid guys like Devin Vassell.
Right.
That you added like him. I think they paid Keldon Johnson. You can add in guys like that to make the salaries just work while sprinkling in the young talent that the Bucks will want. But
you see what Kyle said,
right? Because starts as Giannis trade room.
Because correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not? Maybe I'm the only one that sees this. That's all Shams does year round is talk about Giannis trades. That's all he talks about. He doesn't give you breaking news. He just gives you a lot of hypotheticals, but they usually are around Giannis.
Oh yeah. And you know what? It's annoying. I hate it. Look, Giannis has clearly said he's not going anywhere right now. So I'm taking his word on that one. I don't think we have to worry about Giannis getting moved at all until possibly next offseason. Then we'll revisit everything. But yeah, Shams just got to find something better to talk about and it's unfortunate, right? And that's kind of one of my frustrations when it comes to a lot of the media talking heads talking hoops because they want to focus on the same stories like, oh, let's talk about Giannis trade rumors. Like, why? Why not talk about Jalen Duren's breakout season? Like, he's gone from a guy completely reliant on offense to a guy who's genuinely can carry the Pistons for short stretches. Like, you can talk about Jalen Johnson's breakout season. There's so many fun stories to talk about.
Great.
And we're just like, we got to talk about these non-existent Giannis trade rumors. Like, all right, I guess if that's what you want to do, buddy. What about Giannis to the Sixers? I don't think that works for the Bucks unless you're ready to part with Maxey or Edgecombe.
Right. The only way that trade works is it would hurt the Sixers too because you're going to give back talent. Like they're not just going to give you Giannis and they get to keep Maxey and Edgecombe. Like they get to keep their core. Like what do you guys get back? Paul George and Embiid? I'm not doing that trade.
I would be livid if the centerpiece if we didn't get Maxey or Edgecombe. Which, granted, if you're the Sixers, the answer is probably we'd get Edgecombe if we had to pick between the two. But I'd be livid if I didn't get one of those guys. And it's like, well, here's Paul George. I'm like, great, awesome.
First is Kuzma, now you got Kuzma and PG-13. That's rough.
say same excitement levels as the Bulls getting like Ben Wallace in 2010. Like, woo, cool! You were a big name 5 years ago, but I don't really care at this point.
No,
Say,
I don't think Giannis is getting moved either. I'm with you. The only way he would even be remotely in trade discussions this year is if the Bucks had like a complete collapse, and they, you know what I mean, like a complete collapse where they weren't even a shot to make the playoffs. And I don't see that coming. I've got the Bucks. I think the Bucks are just a bona fide playoff team.
hey, 5 years ago, I would have loved Kyle Lowry.
Me too. 5 years ago.
Hey, the funny part about the Lakers is they could have had him if they were just willing to part with Talon Horton Tucker.
Yeah, what was that about? Jesus Christ, Rob. Rob has done some dumb stuff, man. He does. I mean, he's done a couple good things right, but he's done some dumb stuff. I'm not, and look, and I'm not. I don't want to disrespect Horton Tucker. The young man is a legitimate NBA player, but he's more of a role player. And Rob was valuing him like he was about to be on the verge of a breakout season and become a star, and I didn't understand that.
Damian, I had to bring up the Ben Wallace trade because you were trying to put Patrick Williams in Giannis trade talk. So you reap what you sow on that one.
That's funny. Damian said, "Why, damn it?" That's
yeah,
okay.
it's the worst thing a franchise can do is overrate one of their players, especially in a situation like that where you have a chance to get a guy who obviously in 2021 when those talks are happening, Kyle Lowry was still producing at a good level, but they're like, nah, I can't part with Horton Tucker, and you're just like, I don't know what we're trying to accomplish with this one, but all right.
Hey, let me ask you real quick: are you impressed with how well Phoenix has played this year? Because I'm not gonna lie, I thought for sure they were gonna be like at the bottom of the bottom dweller, like they weren't gonna be competitive at all. And look, Book has been balling, but he's gotten some help. Dylan Brooks has actually played really well for them. Some of their young pieces have stepped up, played well for them. Grayson Allen is having a career year for them. Do you think it's just early in the season, or do you think what Phoenix is doing is sustainable?
I think the defense is sustainable. They're a top 10 defense, and they made a clear objective when they made the KD trade. They wanted to get younger, more athletic, quicker. I think the defense, they can keep that up. I think offense is going to be a problem for them as the year goes on, right? Because eventually they'll get Jalen Green back, but Jalen Green is streaky. Devin Booker is always going to be Devin Booker. He's an elite bucket getter, but after that, it gets really rough. If Jalen Green's not on, then there's just absolutely nothing in terms of shot creation outside of him and Booker and Green. So I think half of it's sustainable. I think the defense they can keep playing at a high level, and I think they'll need to in order to keep getting easy buckets to keep the offense going. But I think as the year progresses, if games turn into a half court slog, I think it could be troublesome for the Phoenix Suns. But overall, I love what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that they made this turnaround and they've been as good as they've been. Look, I think we're both really high on Devin Booker. And I remember, like, if anybody's ever seen the N1, Brett's made that prediction that eventually D Book was going to end up with the Rockets. And I think that was still spot on. The only reason he's not on the Rockets is because, of course, they got KD. You're not getting them both. But that said, I wouldn't rule out Devin Booker still getting traded at some point. Like, Phoenix is respectable, but Book is 30. That's not old. I'm not saying he's an old man at all, but I am saying that at age 30, and he's not surrounded by a lot of elite talent, the goal always is to try to win a title, not just be relevant. I think it would behoove the Phoenix franchise, their president of operations, and Devin Booker, if they parted ways at some point, if it's all about winning. If it's about winning, you would do that. You would do what you said that the Bucks would have to do to Giannis. You would do right by Book because he's been a longtime Suns and he's been a great ambassador for the franchise. But you would also do right by your franchise by getting back as much as you could from him.
No, absolutely. And hey Mo, that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Anything you want to add before we get up on out of here?
No, I appreciate the chat, Kyle, Damian, everybody that tuned in and joined us this morning. Thank you guys so much. It's a blast chopping hoops up with my partner. And make sure you check us out tomorrow night and one podcast, 9:00.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be running it back with some more hoops talk tomorrow on And One. I'll be bringing back the NBA stock market. We'll be talking about some struggling players edition. Is it early in the season, or is it time for them to take even more of a backseat? So definitely look forward to that. You can catch me tomorrow too on Sideline to Sideline, where we talk the NFL, and of course you can watch Mo and I run it back with the morning show on Friday. So that being said, we thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your night.